This is Money Guide with Mary Sterk from Sterk Financial Services. Now, here's Mary Sterk.
Welcome to Money Guide with Mary Sterk, and today we're going to talk about what do you do if you got scammed? How do you take the steps to recover? What are the things that you should be thinking about if you found yourself in the unfortunate position of scam or fraud? And not just the actual logistical steps to take to try to recover some money, but what are the emotional steps that you have to take? Because getting scammed and defrauded can really, really hit home with people emotionally. So today I have with me my partner, Jordan Ireland. And
Hey,
Jordan,
everybody.
scams are not fun to talk about, are they?
No, they're probably one of the worst things that we've had, clients encounter over the last few years, and they're just growing more and more.
Yeah, it's crazy. From 23 to 24, government scams or government impersonation scams went from $171 million of stolen money to almost 800,000 of stolen money. And they're not even the biggest scams out there. I think the romance scams out there are now the ones that really are driving the most, in terms of dollars being taken. It's crazy. But they're everywhere. People are getting scammed through text, through emails, through fake alerts, through things like that. Some scammers can even use technology to replicate the voice of a loved one who's in distress. My own dad had a phone call one day and they were saying, Grandpa, Grandpa. And he was like, he used my son's name. He said, Mace, is that you? And the person was like, yes, it's Mace. And was trying to extract $10,000 from him to help bail him out of jail.
Oh
So
my
my
gosh.
dad fortunately realized it was a scam, but it was a person that was playing on his heartstrings and was trying to get money. And he fell into the first part of the trap, which is using the family name, and then they capitalized on that.
Oh wow, that's so scary.
It really is, isn't it? And so easy to fall prey to.
Mm.
But the thing is, the scams happen. And if you have been scammed or have been defrauded, you are not alone. This is happening more and more and more. So the real question is, can you get your money back? What should you do next? Because the reality is that recovery depends on how much was stolen, how it was stolen, and how fast you act. So the point of our podcast today is really to talk about if you've fallen victim to something, it's not about shame, so don't hide it. Let's take some active steps to try to recover either the money or emotionally. Either one of those is a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
So, what's the very first thing, Jordan, that someone should do if they've gotten scammed and they realize now that it was a scam?
I think the first thing you have to do is cut off communication. That's so important. I
Yep.
think they try to trick you into like keeping it going and making threats to make sure that you are either staying online with them or staying on the phone with them. Just cut off communication.
Yep.
That's the very first thing that you have to do.
One of the biggest red flags about scams is that the scammer will almost always tell you not to share what's going on with anybody else. If you've been told, don't tell, but send me your money, that should be a big red flag that you are being scammed.
Mhm.
And so stopping the communication with them, they're going to know that you're onto them. And that's okay because they'll go on to their next victim. But stopping the communication puts you in a position of no longer being able to be defrauded. And that's
Yeah.
a really, really important piece of it.
Right.
So
Right.
once you've stopped the communication, the very next step is to get law enforcement involved. And that's going to feel uncomfortable. And most people feel very stupid when that happens. But that is the right step if you want to have any chance of potential recovery. So filing a police report is important. And so when you do that, you're going to want to have some detailed information available. You're going to want to have names, numbers, mailing addresses, copies of paperwork, anything that you signed or was submitted. Different scams have different pieces to them. So some people will have documentation like that and some people might not. But filing a police report and then also reporting it to the FBI. And there's a particular website that the FBI uses to report scams. It's www.ic3.gov. So I is in igloo, C is in cat, and then the number 3.gov. And it's important to report it because that's how behind the scenes, even if you don't have recovery of your money, maybe it helps somebody else from being scammed too.
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate really quick too how important it is to actually report this stuff because I think one of the things that they really do is they try to perpetrate this, falsehood that you should be ashamed or that it only happens to elderly people and it makes you feel weak and people
Yep.
don't share that, but that's not true. It happens to everybody of all ages and that's why you just want to make sure that you're, filing the correct reports and making sure that people are aware that this is going on.
Yep. So, following a report to law enforcement, the next most important thing is to handle bank accounts. So, in some people's situations and scams, the challenge is that your bank system might have been affected by this. I will tell you that I found personally someone opened a bank account in my name in Pennsylvania a few years ago. And so I've actually gone through this process. They didn't steal anything from me, they deposited $1 and then withdrew it. That flagged the bank. So the bank had actually already closed the account by the time I got notified about it. But if you have had your banks compromised, there, first of all, go talk to your bank. They need to know that because they'll have their own process for fraud prevention and reporting and things like that. If you've got a police number, like from a police report, you want to take that with them, and your bank will then help you change any account numbers that need to be changed. But there's also something that's called checks systems. So it's CHEX systems. And check systems is something that you can put your information into. And then anytime someone tries to open a bank account at any bank inside of your name and social security number, you will get notified at the opening of that. So when I had a false account opened in my name, I went in and I started this check system process. It's pretty easy to set up and it lasts for 7 years. So anytime in the next 7 years, if anybody tries to open another account in my name and social security number, then I'm going to get notification at my email about it. And I believe I get a letter sent to me too. So I'll be able to catch it sooner. So check system filing is a really important part of the banking function of recovery from a scam.
Right.
So Jordan, talk us a little about credit. Taking care of your credit issues would be the next step. So what should somebody do if they've been scammed with their credit?
Mhm. So one of the really easy things that you can do that a lot of people don't realize you can do is put a freeze on your credit scores. So there's really three main. You can do TransUnion, Experian, and
Equifax.
Equifax. There you go.
I always forget the other one.
It's like the two E's. I get them mixed up. So you go on, set up a quick account. It's very easy. And I think on all three, there's a big button on the middle of the website that basically says freeze my score. And it's a really easy thing to do. And it's really nice because whenever you open a bank account, whenever you want to do a mortgage, a car loan, all this stuff, all of these creditors have to check your credit score. So if you have this freeze on there, it really prevents other people from going in and trying to, start those inquiries into your credit to get those accounts opened. So that's a great way to, whether you've been scammed yet or not, it's a good way to, kind of a preventative thing you can do. And then, just reviewing your credit report to make sure that no other fraudulent accounts were set up. Just because you were only notified of one, do a double check. It's always better safe than sorry. Just kind of make sure that there's nothing else hanging out there that, wasn't set up by you or, is going to be something damaging to you in the future.
One thing about freezing your credit is that when you go to do it online, it sort of looks like you have to pay for it.
Mhm.
And the truth is, you don't. This is a free service that they all have to do if you request it, and you don't have to sign up for any of their programs to actually freeze your credit. So don't be fooled into paying a fee to freeze your credit. The other thing is, let's say that you legitimately want to open a credit card later in your own name. You're going to have to unfreeze your credit at all three bureaus while you're doing your credit card opening and then refreeze it again when you're done. So there's just some logistics to it, but having that credit frozen so nobody can steal your credit is an important part of scam recovery.
Yep. And I will say this, I actually just did that where I had to freeze my credit, and I believe all three sites now have a thaw. So you can actually go in if you just need to have a quick check done for, whatever, like again, a loan, a credit card, something like that. You can actually just say, I want it unfrozen for, 24 hours, 48 hours, and then you don't have to remember to go back in and do it.
That's kind of nice. I like that they're calling it a thaw if
Yeah.
it's frozen.
Congratulations to Mary Sterk and the team at Sterk Financial for earning a spot on multiple Forbes lists for 8 years running, including the 2025 Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisors and 2025 Forbes Top Women Wealth Advisors Best in State.
Okay, so once you've stopped communicating with the offender, you've notified law enforcement, you've taken care of things with your bank, you've handled freezing your credit, then you have to start kind of looking at some other things that most people don't think about. And the biggest one that people forget to do is to get their computer screened for malware. So a lot of scams and frauds are started by something on your computer, either that you responded to or a fake website or something like that. And so it's really important that if a bad actor has control of something in your computer or access to something in your computer, that you get that fixed so it doesn't happen again and they're not aware of the fixes that you have put into place. So you're going to want to have a professional scan your computer for the malware. And you're also, after everything has been checked by a professional and anything cleared out, you're going to want to update any passwords for all online accounts. And it's possible you might want to even change your email address to start a new one. Sometimes the email is completely compromised and there isn't anything that can be done about that. So shutting that one down and just starting a new one could be something that you want to do computer wise, but don't do it until you've had the computer checked and cleared. That's a really important piece of it. On the email front, sometimes there's auto forwarding that's happening and you don't even know it. So if somebody's forwarding you something that's a fix for one of your issues, if it's getting auto forwarded to that bad actor, you either might not see it yourself or they know exactly what you're doing. And so that's why it's important to get things cleaned up on your computer first before you start making a lot of changes to new things. So, all right, Jordan, what should people do in relation to Social Security if they've been scammed?
Usually just a call to the Social Security office. Just make sure that there hasn't been any tampering done with your name, Social Security number, any of your information on their side. That's the root of it all, right? Is where your Social Security number is, and just it's a nice safe check just to make sure that nothing has gone so deep as to make any changes actually where all that information is rooted.
So sometimes the scam is telling you that you need to pay them money to change your social security number and get a new one issued. And if that's what you're hearing from somebody, that is probably a scam because that's not usually how Social Security responds to anything. So if that's part of what you're hearing, you might still be in contact with a scammer and not really realize it. So keep that in mind. All right, now let's talk about something more near and dear to our hearts, which is your actual investment accounts. So investment accounts, a lot of companies have had hackers breach them and different things like that. Probably everybody has had some kind of communication with some type of investment account or bank account where there's been a hack. I mean, even one of the credit unions had a big hack at one point in time. But if you know you've been scammed and you have investment accounts, make that phone call to your advisor and let them know. Most firms have what's called an elder issues team. And so whether you're young and have a scam or older and have a scam, it still goes to the same team. But they can help with recovery efforts and also making sure that you take all the appropriate steps to protect yourself against further scams. So contact your advisor. Many brokerage companies and investment companies can do a restriction on all of your outgoing activity by putting heightened security on it. So for instance, if we know that one of our clients has had a scam happen, we can put a restriction on their account that it just goes through more levels of security before any money is released to try to prevent any further money loss from happening from any avenue. And sometimes that heightened security just is the right level of protection that somebody needs. Even if you have annuities, annuity companies will often use a password to protect verbal change requests. So let's say somebody got a hold of your annuity account number and they were trying to call the company to change the bank account and then withdraw the money. If you have a specific password that's been put on there by you and your financial advisor, if that bad actor doesn't know the password, then no change can be made to the bank account, no withdrawal can be done verbally. So that's important. So those are some of the things that you really want to take care of on the investment side. Starts with the phone call to the advisor. Now, we also hear a lot out there about, oh, you should have identity theft protection and things like that. But what should you do if you've had a scam, Jordan? What should you do with your identity theft company?
I mean, absolutely contact them and let them know what's going on. You know, again, it's just like so many things that we've talked about before. You have to let people know what's going on. People that are dealing with your finances, people that are trying to help you protect your identity, let them know so that they can also be on the lookout for any additional, possible scams or, inquiries into your information. They can kind of be on the lookout for that and know that's coming. So if you don't have the identity theft protection yet, it's definitely something worth to consider. I would say one thing that's kind of a misnomer or people don't understand is that they're kind of watching, but there's not a lot of protections that they have. So they're a great watchdog, but they're not necessarily going to prevent it from happening. So, you still have to make sure you're cautious and careful. You can't just be willy-nilly with things just because you have identity theft protection. We still have to be careful and we still have to take those precautions.
Yeah, and I had identity theft protection in place when that fraudulent bank account was set up. And my identity theft company did not notify me about that bank account being set up. So there was a hole with that. But what they did say is that, yeah, this is where your information has been found on the dark web. And so any accounts that you have that have a password of this or an email address of that are something you should consider changing. So at least it gave me some direction on steps I could proactively take. I would say another proactive step people can take is reporting the scam to the Federal Trade Commission. And again, sometimes people don't think they need to take it this far, but it's just a good idea to do it. The Federal Trade Commission has an identity theft guide that you can access at identitytheft.gov. It's a good guide to help you through the process, but then you can also review their website for additional information for things that might make sense from you, depending on the type of scam that you've been through. So that is yet another step that's proactive that you can take. So far what we've covered: stop communicating with the scammer immediately. Number 2, file a report with law enforcement, both your local police department and the FBI. Number 3, protect your banking by talking to the bank and setting up yourself in the check system so you're notified if bank accounts get set up in your name. Number 4, freeze the credit and check your credit report. Number 5, take care of your computer so that they can't access your information again. Number 6, check with Social Security and make sure nothing's been compromised there. Number 7, talk to your investment advisor and make sure you protect any investment accounts with passwords or heightened security. Number 8, report it to your identity theft company and see if they have any suggestions. Number 9, report it on the Federal Trade Commission site and review their identity theft suggestions for action steps. But now I want to talk about the last part. And really, this is something that I don't think gets enough attention. And the number 10 on our list of what to do if you get scammed is attempt to find your emotional footing after the scam. And that can be really hard. If it's a romance scam, you probably have heartbreak on top of shame. Yes. If it's any other type of scam, you probably feel stupid and that you should have known better. So what are some of the things people can do to kind of start to regain their emotional footing after a scam?
I think first of all, you just have to be, you have to let go of that self-blame. You have to go easy on yourself. It's not, if you weren't dumb, your trust was exploited. It's not, we as human beings, a lot of times we trust maybe more than we should, but
Yeah.
again, we're being human. We're not being stupid. So, it's common to feel that way, but when we say that, that's not the way that you should feel, because again, there's bad people out there. We can't control that. We just have to, unfortunately, fix the broken pieces after these bad people come in and try and take advantage of you. So it wasn't about you being careless. It's about being human. So you just have to, acknowledge that. And I guess, don't feel like you can't trust anybody. That's not the answer at all. It's just, you have to, kind of forgive yourself, give yourself some grace and know that it happens to everybody.
Yeah, it does happen. And people feel very isolated as it's happening and after it's happened. Um, we had one client who had a government impersonator try to convince them to take money out of accounts and then put it into Bitcoin. And then, and by the way, if you have anybody say that you need to give them the money in Bitcoin, that is a massive red flag that it is a scam. Don't be out there doing that. But if they're telling you not to tell anybody about it, that's another big indicator. If they're telling you that you're going to be in trouble if you talk about it, that's another big indicator. But all of this leads to isolation. And so part of the healing process following a scam is talking about it and sharing it and really getting some support and guidance. You don't have to navigate recovery from a scam alone. There are organizations out there that are designed to help people with this. There isn't, I think in 2024 and then going into 2025, I haven't seen the final numbers yet, but there's over $12 billion worth of scams that have been reported. And if that's what was reported, there was probably a lot more that went unreported, right? So you are not alone. There are support groups and organizations out there for people. You have a peer group who you can talk to, people who've been through what you've been through. And these programs provide a safe space to share your experience and to learn how to rebuild trust, sometimes even in yourself, but also help you through the practical steps to regain control financially and see what you can do for account recovery, what you can do for emotional recovery following that scam. So take advantage of those.
Absolutely.
So we hope this has been helpful. Unfortunately, the scams happen, and the only thing you can do is try to recover after them. So hopefully these steps have been a good guide for people who have dealt with this unfortunate circumstance. If you have, or if you know somebody that has, make sure you send this information to them so that they can take a listen and get on the road to recovery themselves. Thanks for listening to Money Guide with Mary Sterk.
Sterk Financial Services celebrated 20 years in 2024. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of your audio provider and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities or services mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can ensure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should only be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Insurance offered through Sterk Financial Services, which is not affiliated with Osaic Wealth. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth. The rankings for the Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisors list by Shook Research is based on due diligence meetings to evaluate each advisor qualitatively, a major component of a ranking algorithm that includes client retention, industry experience, review of compliance records, firm nominations, and quantitative criteria, including assets under management and review generated for their firms. The Forbes ranking of America's top women wealth advisors is based on an algorithm of qualitative and quantitative data, rating thousands of wealth advisors with a minimum of 7 years of experience and weighing factors like revenue trends, assets under management, compliance records, industry experience, and best practices learned through telephone and in-person interviews. There is no fee in exchange for rankings. Forbes is a trademark of Forbes Media LLC. All rights reserved. Rankings and recognition from Forbes, Shook Research are no guarantee of future investment success and do not ensure that a current or prospective client will experience a higher level of performance results, and such rankings should not be construed as an endorsement of the advisor.